Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. In this video we're going to take a look at the PMP Revenge. And this is a multinational knife of sorts. Let me give you guys a little bit of background about the company, but the owner is a man by the name of Patrick Hollenstein out of Switzerland. Apparently he lives somewhere in the heart of Switzerland on a farm, and his passion for knives led him to want to make knives, essentially. So he has contracted or worked with designers out of Switzerland and Italy, and he went through a whole slew of manufacturers in China trying to find the right manufacturer, landed with Maxace, which some of you guys have heard of before. And anyways, this is I think the third knife from him. The first was a knife that was heavily inspired by Medford knives, and it was called the PMP Beast. And it is this monstrosity right here. It's a 13-ounce knife, and it uses 1/4-inch blade stock. To me, this is more of a novelty and an experience than perhaps a useful cutting tool. But it's been interesting to see kind of the reaction that this knife has had at like get-togethers and other things. And I've had multiple offers where people wanted to buy the knife off me, but anyways, quite an interesting knife. Again, quite a lot of Medford influence here. Medford was one of his primary influences, or one of his favorite companies. In fact, he even tried to contract them to build knives for him, which they agreed to, but the prices were more than he could afford. So anyways, that's a little bit of background about PMP. And PMP stands for the name of three people: Patrick, Marcel, and Patrick. It was originally intended to be a 3-person company, but as of now, apparently he is the only person in the company. His friends bailed on him. So anyways, the PMP Revenge, without further ado, here's what it ships with. Little velvety pouch thing, standard black box, and we'll look at this one kind of in detail. So it is a titanium frame lock flipper, has a lot of, I don't know, similarities with a lot of other frame lock flippers out there. This is a knife for people who like large knives, but don't want to sacrifice carryability or cutting performance. I mean, by way of example, let's look at the PMP Beast. So in terms of size, fairly similar, but once we get into the handle thickness and the blade stock, it's pretty apparent what the differences are there. So again, it's kind of along the same lines. It's big, fills the hand quite well, but it is not an uber thick brick in the pocket. So yeah, this thing is, again, kind of a curiosity or novelty for me to have something this large and this heavy just in the collection. All right, some normal size comparisons. We'll get out the Para 2, and then we will also get out the Kershaw Dividend. So there it is. As you can see, obviously larger than both. And while we've got that out and hopefully centered here, let's talk about the specs real quick. So blade length is 3.78, handle length is 5.04, giving us an overall of 8.82 inches. So I have other knives that are 9 and 9-inch plus. It's not the largest that I have, or the longest, I should say. Does weigh in at 6.45 ounces. So again, it's not light, but it's also not 13 ounces. Again, frame lock, stainless steel lock insert. It does use a multi-row bearing system. The blade steel is M390, and the blade thickness is 137 thousandths. There it is next to the Para 2. I think the Para 2 might be a little bit thinner. I can't recall what the Para 2 is now, but not too different from the Para 2. And then, again, this one does have a high height flat grind, so it's pretty thin behind the edge. Again, as far as the super big knife goes, and actually most knives in general. All right, so those are specs for the most part. Let's move these two out of the way. As far as opening methods go, again, there is kind of a smaller flipper tab up top. It's got some texturizing or jimping on the front. Deploys quite readily, and then it has an opening hole, and This is kind of an interesting opening hole. It's got a, the hole is not continued all the way to the front, but it still has kind of a cutout there. So I'm not quite sure if that was intended as kind of a visual, so as to not make the hole too long, but you can still come down right here and it's still perfectly functional. So kind of an interesting take, but middle finger works well, thumb works well, flipper tab works well. The action certainly has been generalized for all three, so if you want to, you know, do a mediocre deployment, you can, but again, if it was too strong, then the opening hole would not function. So there's that. Let's take a look at the blade. Satin, got two, well, you got a swedge up front and different patterns on the satin and so forth. The blade's well done. Again, it comes down to a nice keen edge. It came pretty sharp out of the box. Honestly, it could probably do with a good strop to really get it to that hair shaving sharp. They are numbered if you care, and there is a proper sharpening notch in here. So I also like that the blade grind is in line with the frame. For me, that's kind of an important or nice visual cue. And then the opening hole, again, the frame mirrors kind of the blade shape and grinds and so forth, which is a nice touch. And it's pretty much fully encased in the handle. Again, it's a wider knife. Where are my calipers? Let's take a look at some of these other dimensions here. Let me zero this thing out. The width, let's go inches. 1.5 inches, a little over 1.5 inches at, yeah, around inch and a half essentially as far as the width goes. But again, there's no sharp edges on the handle. The pivot is captured, as you can see, a nice little, that's the PMP logo here on the pivot. That's a nice touch. Cut out nice and clean. Pocket clip is nice and clean. Not much of a ramp going up into the pocket here, and the pocket spacing leaves a little bit to desired. Some of my thicker jeans this one did not want to cooperate with, but this seems to be the case with a lot of pocket clips these days. Maybe it's just me. Lanyard hole at the back. It's got a bead blast finish. As you can see, I've got some scuff marks here from carry already. And they do have different colors. Some of these are anodized different colors. Everything's been rounded though. There's not any sharp edges anywhere on the handle, which I certainly appreciate. And then they knocked off the edges behind, or you know, around the flipper tab as well. There's even a slight kind of micro chamfer where the flipper tab goes. So again, nice detail. Stainless steel insert, you can see right there. Oh, centering spot on. The back spacer has been milled down to give some extra clearance for the blade. Again, also a nice touch. About 25% lockup. It's nice and sturdy. There's no movement. It's not going anywhere. And then again, more millwork here for the blade cutout, or for the lock bar disengagement, so it's really easy to disengage. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It does a lot of things really, really well. What I think it excels at is it takes that very large knife format and it makes it carryable and usable, because it's made, you know, long blade, wide blade, long handle, kind of a wider handle, but it's done so in a thinner fashion. What was the total thickness here? Yeah, under 1/2 inch thick essentially throughout the handle. So, you know, again, if you've got larger hands and you want something that fills the hand fairly well, look at the way my hand sits in there. Again, I wear an XL glove, but fits really well. So this kind of gives that happy medium between an oversized knife and one that still carries well. Again, I think the large improvement would be more space for the pocket clip, essentially. Give me more space in there for my jeans. That's pretty much it. So that's, you know, again, that's the PMP Beast. I'm sorry, Revenge. This other one here was the Beast. I'll put a link down to the in the description box below of the at least one dealer, several dealers who carries them that you guys can check out. And I think that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Comments or questions, let me know, and I'll see you soon.